Hey folks out there, this is Ted, and you're watching TedTv. I'm back. After 8 months, I'm back. I decided to come back. Originally, I thought last summer I wanted to retire and not do any more shows because I felt like, I didn't make a difference. There's like hundreds and hundreds of people on YouTube doing the same stuff, you know, New World Order agenda, end time prophecies and all that. I figured that, hey, the world doesn't need me. They got enough information out there. So I decided, I got a little bit discouraged and said, nah, they don't need me, so, and I don't need to do this because there's enough people doing it. But now I just thought about this, and I'm going to come back and do more shows because it's so urgent that I get this information out to you. It's just absolutely imperative. I think my information could help you. I mean, every bit of information is helpful, and I've uncovered a lot lately that is absolutely critical to your well-being, your survival, and you need to know this information. I mean, right now, because we're at a critical juncture here, folks. And so what I want to talk about now is this. We hear the drums beating and the rhetoric now of World War III, you know, and it's becoming more and more evident week by week, month by month. The drums are beating louder and the rhetoric's getting tougher between Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Barack Obama, and the Ayatollah of Iran. So it's heating up there, folks. And, you know, Netanyahu's he's trying to antagonize Iran. He says he won't tolerate Iran's nuclear program. So they're just beating up this rhetoric, saying, oh, you know, they're going to find any excuse because the negotiations, obviously, they're not going to work. They're never going to work. And it's just a front. Israel will attack Iran, and they'll make all sorts of BS excuses why they should. They feel that, oh, Iran's going to wipe them off the face of the earth, and Iran, if they're given enough opportunity, will do that. So we have animosity, we have tensions growing between those two, and the United States is going to condemn them and say, no, they shouldn't be doing that and all that. But the United States will follow. The United States will follow Israel and just go in there and attack them along with them because we're allies of Israel. In fact, I mean, if you look at our government, we've been, excuse my saying, but we've been kissing Israel's ass for decades and decades. I mean, the Illuminati Jews have been in our government telling us how to run our country for, you know, almost over 100 years now. We are dedicated to Israel. We'll do anything to please Israel. So when Israel attacks Iran, you can bet the United States will be right in there with them, you know, with their war machines. What I want to point out is these world wars have been planned out by the inner circle of the Illuminati. These three world wars, World War I, World War II, and World War III, they've been planned out by the Illuminati since 1871. They had a plan for each world war and what the agenda was and what it would accomplish. And so I just like to outline this World War I. Its purpose and strategy was to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, bringing about a communist, atheist state in Russia. That was the goal of World War I. And that goal was met, and we came out of that with forming the League of Nations. After World War I, we formed the League of Nations. Okay, so World War II was, you know, there was a false flag event prior to World War II. There was Pearl Harbor, which is exactly the same thing as September 11, 2001. It was a false flag setup, attack, Pearl Harbor, you know, December 7th, 1941. That incident kicked off World War II. The main goal in that war was to strengthen communism and to bring about the Zionist state of Israel, the creation of Israel, which I might add is, I spoke about this in other videos, the Rothschilds, the absolute pinnacle of Illuminati inner circle power, the Rothschild family dynasty. The Rothschilds, they created Israel. They bribed Truman. They bribed him. They said they'd pay him $3 million if he would help sign a bill to create the new state of Israel. And of course, that's what we had in May of 1948. The new nation of Israel, the rebirth of Israel. But so that's one of the major goals of World War II, was the creation of the Zionist state of Israel. The United Nations was formed out of World War II. So see, the League of Nations, World War I, United Nations was formed right after World War II ended. So now we have the plan for World War III, which has been in the works. Yeah, they've had this one planned for over 100 years too. World War III would be between Israel and the Muslims. Would be fought in the Middle East, and it's a world war. The strategy was a Middle Eastern war, and it's called Judaism, Jews against Islam, and the spreading of internationality. I mean, the result of this, of course, would be, as David Rockefeller put it, we will have a one world government through consent or conquest, whichever comes first. But we all know that the Illuminati their philosophy is order out of chaos. Order out of chaos, order out of chaos. Create as much chaos as you possibly can. Just create chaos everywhere in the world. And, I mean, the end result would be the grand chaos, World War III, a nuclear holocaust. And, you know, it would finally get the people to accept a one world government, because, you know, if you have a World War III nuclear holocaust around the world, the people are going to be so scared, I think they will be willing to accept a one world government, a one world dictator. The one world dictator who comes in on a peace platform. He comes in peaceably. He wants to make peace. And he tells the people, we will have peace. One world government will give us peace. There will be no more nation against nation fighting. No more wars. We will have peace. One world government is the solution. That's what you'll hear from the one world dictator as he rises. He rises out of the ashes of World War III. Okay, folks, that's all I have to say for now. I will be back next week with another show, and I hope to have a lot more information. Thank you.
The immediate threat, which has been there since before the death of Muammar Gaddafi, was the intention at that time in killing Gaddafi, was to set forth the basis for a pathway leading toward thermonuclear war. A thermonuclear war conducted by the United States, Britain, and other powers against China and Russia and other locations. That state of war, an oncoming war, has existed for some time now. Generally, you don't hear much about it unless you look at the military side, or say the Joint Chiefs of Staff's policies, which saying don't get into such a war. But we're on the edge of it. The key figure in this war plan is the current President of the United States, Obama. And if the situation is such that although we have not gone to war yet, not to thermonuclear war, we still are on the brink of it. And the way it's supposed to go is this way. The Israelis are supposed to start a strike against Iran. Now, we don't know how deep that strike is going to be. It goes down 200 feet, for example, one of these kinds of attacks. This would be enough to trigger a war, because Iran has relationships with other countries, including Russia and China, and its known in Russia that if that war starts, the intention is to launch a thermonuclear attack on Russia from and from China, from the United States and Britain. The major force would be used for that in the war would be a full-scale thermonuclear war. Full-scale thermonuclear attack coming as a technical surprise, leading into a general preemptive thermonuclear attack on the United States in return for a thermonuclear attack on the United States and Russia and China from Britain and from the President of the United States. Now, such a war is always going to be preemptive. When you get to the magnitude of thermonuclear warfare, if you look at what our Navy represents in terms of thermonuclear warfare capabilities, launchable from the Pacific against China and against Russia. That means it's a first strike war, which is a knockout blow, is what's intended. And therefore, Russia has a similar view of what the realities are.